So how do we in this system help our children take it back?
All right. Excellent question.
And I'll piggyback. You mentioned pedagogy. So what does the pedagogy look like for us moving away from the Eurasian perspective?
Which one do you want to answer first?
Oh, I thought my brother is the one answering. I thought you are posing the question and you are going to answer it.
Two questions for you.
Oh, for me. Oh, sorry, brother. Here we were like cricket. All right. So, the first question is for the children. Right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Second question is how does it look like, right? And so that's the pedagogy, moving away from the Eurasian. Let's talk about the children. As children, we're all children once upon a time. Okay, and children, we are but what? A reflections of the adult influences around us. That is what a child is. That is what the behavior of a child is. You normally hear a parent say that sometimes, oh, but I don't know my son to behave that way. I don't know my daughter to behave that way. Yes, my friend, you do. You know very well. You are just embarrassed. But you know very well because you behave that way. You allow it. Okay? Or even if, quote, you don't allow it, you're not responsible enough to what? To check certain things when you do. Identify them. So, Loon, to that question, you and I, as the adult, have to be living the authenticity. That is how you do it. Okay? So when we talk about, okay, then, Brother AK, how then do I put my child in the educational system when I'm in a Eurasian dominated society? The first question, the first response to that question, I'll say, don't you dare use the word dominated in your mind. Your child or the child can go somewhere to receive training, competency. You can go somewhere to receive training, competency. But you better know who and where you belong. How many parents have that conversation with their children? They don't, because they don't live it. Because it's not a conversation you have, it's a life you live. You are going to this school. You understand you are Al-Kabulan. You understand the skills and training you are going to get. We are going to explore as a stage in your life now. We are going to explore what your interests are. This here is the best school because it has resources that we need. It has equipment that we need. But don't you dare forget that those people you see walking around and running around, they are not of your what? Interest. Look yourself in the mirror. Those people that you see that are looking like you, those are the ones you are gaining competencies and what? And skill sets for. These conversations have to be had. But beyond that, they are looking at their mother, they are looking at their father. They are looking at their father when they are speaking to a Eurasian. They are like, oh, I'm doing fine. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. They are picking up those cues. Submissive persona. That is the hypocrisy. So, my sister, we have to be that which we what? That which we expect to become. Okay? Yes, you can take a child. You can take a mind to a certain one, to a certain environment. And they know who the hell they are. And they know what they are there for. Okay? So, depending on the age or the stage of the child, the younger children, and I always tell folks, you have to accommodate to have them what? To have them closer by you. If you are going to have children, you have to have planned. What are you having children for? But let's say you've not planned and now you have children. The question is, what are you going to what? to exit out of this world, ensuring that the children continue. That will then begin to guide you. That will, Brother AK can't tell you if you've not asked yourself those questions. You see? So that is the thing on the children. Okay? I hope that is clear enough, yes?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
No wahala. Now, my brother, what does it look like moving away from the Eurasian pedagogy? Oh, it looks painful, brother. Painful. And what is this kind of pain? This pain is because that which is familiar, even though that is harmful, even though that is damaging, even though that is literally detrimental, people still want to what? Hang on to it. Because what? It is familiar. It is familiar because what? That is all I have known. No, that's a lie. That is all you've cared to know. Now, if that is the case, Brother AK, we say that is all I've cared to know. Why do you say that? If you say, my friend, that is all you know, I ask you, simple, what is the capital city of, let's say, Botswana? Okay. You may not know. It's Gaborone. Okay. Excellent. What is the capital, what do you call it, city of the United States? Oh, it's Washington, D.C. Okay. How come you know one and you don't know the other? It's what you care for. It's what you care for. So now the question is, who and what have I allowed to dictate my intentionality to what? To what should be my what? My focus. So then, what does the moving away from the Eurasian pedagogy look like? It's a painful thing. Because that which is familiar is what? Is painful to detach from. Because again, it comes back to the notion of what? One has to take responsibility. And that for a subservient mindset, for an inculcated subservient, what I call a fetch nigger, or a fetch abib, or a fetch kafir. Someone who's been trained to go fetch, bring to me. Here is by one brother, the brother said, Shabako, here is some sugar, here's some carrot for you. If I'm used to receiving that, how can you kick a dog? You kick that dog. The dog has his tail in his leg. He go, 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 go. But then you say, oh, come here, come here, come here, come here. It will be what? Timid first, right? But then it will eventually come to you still, right? With his what? Its tail in the leg still shaking, but it will come. Because that dog has what? Been made what? Dependent. It's been deceived. So, when you see people, my brother, not wanting to endure pain, to take responsibility, to grow, and most importantly, to add to something that challenges them to take ownership, that is what you know then people are not moving away from the Eurasian, what do you call it, pedagogy. Because they want that carrot. They want that sugar. Even though they are treated that way. That is why a lot of females, they find it hard to leave a what? A so-called, and I use the word so-called intentionally, abusive relationship. Physically, in particular, abusive. Because it's familiar. They don't want that responsibility to detach, to be by themselves, to strengthen, and then what? And to now take responsibility and accountability for what they allow and they don't allow. So that is what it looks like, my brother. A lot of pain. whereby people are now literally going also what? To hate you. Because those people who are hating you, they have been taught and trained by their masters to attack that one that opposes the master's process. So now what does it look like? You're going to have family hate you, beginning with those who really know you. Forget those who don't know you. That's what it looks like.
Why are you changing your name?
That's what they're going to say, Jay. Why are you changing your name?
Why are you changing your name? Sorry to interrupt you. It's similar to what we were talking about in a previous discussion about spirituality, that it's going to be painful for a lot of folks who subscribe to Christianity or some of the mainstream religions to break away and kind of go back. It's still very painful because it's entangled in their lives, and to rip that away and to know something else that's more aligned with them spiritually is difficult.
Something that I learned from my reading a while back that has always stuck with me, and it's always been a thorn or a rock in my shoe, is a saying that, and I'm paraphrasing, it says, we are so deeply entrenched in the Eurasian system that we oftentimes can only come up with Eurasian solutions to our problems. Meaning that is the only thing, as Dr. A.K. said, we had cared to learn, that when we think we're getting ready to address our issues, we take on another tool from the Eurasian toolbox, from the Eurasian pedagogy, which is what inspired me to start my journey and seek recalibration and re-education from people who are of the continent firstly, and whose interests are of the continent, which is what allowed me to reach out to Dr. A.K. and ask to learn from him some of these views, and then, of course, to continue my own studies. And something that I came across, again, to add to that concept of being so deeply entrenched that we come up with European solutions to European problems, still locked into their system, still locked into the servitude, because everything created by the European is to serve the European interest at the cost of your own interest. So it spurs me on to find Al-Kebalan solutions. And to find Al-Kebalan solutions, you have to begin to explore Al-Kebalan thought. And in exploring Al-Kebalan thought, one of the principles that I came up with from Fanti is something called the Abarofo Akoko.
Abrofo Koko.
Abrofo Koko.
There you go.
Which is the foreigner's chicken, or more colloquially, the white man's chicken. Let's think about this concept. And folks here in the United States, or what is known as the United States, can relate to this, especially if they have YouTube. Go on YouTube and look at what a chicken factory looks like. You can check out Tyson's Chicken Factory or Costco's Chicken Factory or any other mainstream manufacturer of chickens. These are chickens that only exist to live in the foreigner's slaughterhouse. That is the only existence that they know. In fact, it seems strange to them if they should look out the window and see a chicken in its natural environment. It would look at that chicken and say, man, you live a rough life, because every day I get my feed of corn. Every day I'm told what time to wake up. I'm told how much medicine I'm going to get. I'm told how much grain I'm going to get. I'm told that I can only stand in this position. But at least I know what all of my days would look like. And I know that at this particular time in the day, the foreigner is going to come and take my eggs. I'm not going to have to sit on my eggs. I'm not responsible for them. All I have to do is lay them. And I know that one day, and I don't even have to plan for it, that he's going to put me on the assembly line and I'm going to be slaughtered. And that day is of his choosing, but it's on the calendar. It's all planned. I don't have to worry about anything, because that is the only context that they can live in, because they are thoroughly captured. They think that that is the reality of existence. And they look around and all the chickens are white. Because why are all the chickens white? Because those are the only chickens that the foreigner says belongs in. They don't want brown chickens in there for some reason. They look at all the eggs. All the eggs are white. because of the medicine or however they're biologically programmed in order to lay only white eggs, in order to produce or reproduce only white feathered chickens. They look out the window, they see a brown chicken, and they're saying to themselves, they don't even recognize what a chicken in its natural state looks like. So this is one of the things that helped me in seeking Alkebulan solutions to Alkebulan problems that were imposed on us by foreigners. We have to go into our own systems and look at ourselves through our own lens. We cannot stay in the European pedagogy to try to define what our problems are in the European pedagogy. Because even if you define a problem in the European pedagogy, they're going to tell you, well, you're just depressed. What you need to do is go see the doctor, the psychologist, the psychiatrist, take your depression medication and report to work. Take your 2 weeks vacation so that when you go and leave your country now and go to another country and see things that you never saw before, instead of calling them natural, you're going to call them exotic.
Can you give a compare and contrast an issue, what the European or Eurasian solution would be, and conversely what the Alkebulan solution would be, just to give a sense of, an example that we're talking about?
The solution to any Alkebulan problem can only come from an Alkebulan focused mind. Let's start there. So to compare and contrast things is not, in my opinion, the right way to look at it, because the European and the Alkebulan doesn't have the same end game, or shouldn't have the same end game for their respective cultures, especially with the way things are today. So the European solution, or the Eurasian solution, as I see right now, is the continued domination of the world's resources and what they have to do in order to stay in control of the minds of the people to guarantee that. So their solution runs the gamut from missionary work to genocide, right? So all of those are in the gamut of European solutions. They even had one called the final solution. Right? So just know that when Europeans see a problem, as we say in Alkebulan, if the only tool in your toolbox is a hammer, then every problem is going to look like a nail to you. That is not a European saying. That is an Alkebulan proverb. We first need to understand things that are being appropriated and taken out of context. So we need to look at the problems that we're facing through the proper lens. Now, what is an Alkebulan solution to anything? An Alkebulan solution to anything is to firstly step away from the European pedagogy and get an understanding that the European pedagogy was created for the explicit and sole purpose of European servitude if you are not European, and European domination if you are European. So anything that you do within that pedagogy can only serve those two ends. Until the Alkebulan mind sees that, the Alkebulan mind is going to continue to work against himself or herself. I would start there. And then once we have those lenses wiped clean, wiped properly, then we can begin to assess things.
You've spoken sense. You've all spoken sense.
Dr. AK, I attended the University of Miami, and we had a lot of students come from the continent, various countries. I knew some students from Nigeria, some from South Africa, Kenya. There would be a schism between the Alkebulan who were born in America and the Alkebulan who were born on the continent, and the Alkebulan who were born in the Caribbean. And there would be a schism in terms of it would be perceived from the American Alkebulan that the ones from the continent didn't like us or thought that we didn't value education as much as they did, and we would see that schism. We see that schism a lot. I'm just wondering. My first question: do you think the Alkebulan on the continent, being closer to the source, if you will, or what position are they right now today in, I guess, being a conduit for us in America to get to that Alkebulan mindset, number one? And number two, do you have a sense of why there is a particular schism, or do you think there's a schism?
First off, when you mention as far as being close or on the continent, being on a land is not synonymous for being in your right mind. As much as it's a fantasized projection from our brothers and sisters who are in other locales apart from the mainland of Alkebulan and her main island and her other islands, 5 islands. It's not a thing again of being on the land being synonymous for being in your right mind. Being on a land is not what informs a mind. Narratives and symbols are what feeds the mind. Okay. Now, you, Brother J, are drinking some liquid. So am I. Okay. Mine is apple cider. Okay. Very good. It's almost done. I'm sad. But that said, what we are consuming has an effect on us. If it's not what? Good for us. So I have this apple cider in this glass. I am drinking it in this locale where I am right now. If it's, poisoned meaning that the effect of it after consumption is when we can determine what? It's poisoned. Right? If it's poisoned, I don't have to believe it, neither do you. You don't have to agree with, neither do I. But at the end of the day, I consume. It will have the effect it's supposed to have on me. I can take this same cup and its content thereof to your locale, wherever you are stationed right now. And as soon as you consume of it, it's going to have that same effect on you. Again, whether you agree, whether you don't agree, whether you what? You like it or whether you don't. You consume of it, it will have that same effect. And then we begin to what? Show the symptoms. I start throwing up. I start having headaches. You, the same, start throwing up. You start having headaches and the like. We begin to exhibit the symptoms because we've what? Consumed of a certain what? Of a certain product. Regardless of locale. How then am I to think that because my brother is on that side, consuming of this will have a different impact on him? That is the fantasy. That is the fantasy of someone who is lied to me and saying that, your brother there in that locale, he is living a different life. But not knowing that person that's lying to me is the producer of these contents that is serving it in that locale also. So now when I go and see my brother, who I should think should be good because he is in that locale, that is what? He's on the ground where I want to be. I see him literally behaving similar to myself and or other people that I see sick. Now I start saying, look at him. I thought this and that and that. But not just that, but my brother has a resentment towards me because he is being told by the same person or the same benefactors from serving this content that brother of yours, AK in there, he did that over there, doesn't even care about how you are living here. So now when you are seeing me, you are not even seeing what I'm also suffering, but you are just having resentment for me. And you are suffering symptoms and what? With additional compounds of resentment towards me, and hence we are treating each other in that context. That is why, yes, people will go to the continent and they will say, I didn't think it was like this. Because you were living a fantasy. You go to even the Ghana area, the Congo area, where our brothers and sisters were literally kept in dungeons prior to being what? To being, abducted from the land, from the continent itself. And you have people in the so-called Ghana area, the so-called Congo area and the like, Benin and what, who have literally not even stepped foot in those dungeons once. And they were born and they have lived. But you know what they are doing? They are busy selling and hawking outside. And I tickle and chuckle, not because it's funny, but because it is so elementarily preposterous. The mental state which we allow ourselves to assume, thinking that what? Rendering ourselves to being prostitutes of currency we will find some legitimate sense somewhere. Again, we render ourselves to thinking that being prostitutes to currency, we will find some legitimate sense somewhere. So the people who came from so-called Nigeria and the like and hubbed in the University of Miami, like you're saying, their experience was money focused. It was nothing to do with what? To reconciling wrongs that have been what? Done. Their priorities was not at all about reconnecting a brother, reconnecting a sister. Their priority was what? Getting what I need to what? To get money. That's what I call prostitutes to currency. So you and I, having lived or been born and raised in this hemisphere, will then say, oh, look at this person, how they are acting towards me. Yes, because they've been drinking that same Kool-Aid. They've been drinking that same Kool-Aid. The same person that you were thinking, they are coming from the motherland, should know better, should treat me better. No, my friend, they have been what? They've been trained. They've been trained for the same 7 at the end of the what plus what equals 7. So that is what you find. So then, if I find that, what then should my response be? They don't matter. It's that simple. Those people don't matter. Because, like what Brother Shabakojo mentioned, those chickens in the slaughterhouse, all of them, have similar mentality because they've been conditioned to have that mentality. But if one of them said, others beyond me will not live in this slaughterhouse, if they had a priority beyond their lifetime, my friend, their behavior would be different.